Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm in beautiful upstate New York, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam. The way to start your morning. It's to recalibrate. You know, Kaustubha, it's just doing the same little investment every morning.
Okay.
If I did this with money, I'd be rich right now. But if you do this with your spiritual life, it changes. It's compound interest. You make a little bit of investment in your time every day. And you don't realize it happens. It's like the hands of a clock, right?
Okay.
The next thing you know, you become Krishna conscious. Instead of all the other things I was conscious of, you become God conscious, Krishna conscious, spirit conscious.
When did that happen for you?
When did that happen? When I was in Nepal, I realized I am God. No. When it happened for me was when I made a small commitment to chant one round of japa beads on my japa beads every day.
All right.
That was like about 1988. Started to change things quick. Not only, just like if I say, I'm going to go to the gym. Okay, how often do you go? You know, I got a membership. I just go. No, that's not how it works. You go 3 times a week, 4 times a week. You make a commitment to a specific time. And what happens is it breaks a lazy mind. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. How to break those lazy habits. You know, they say like those are the vowels.
Yeah,
we're working with all the vowels today. It said that. Well, it sounds better than just going, ever hear those people talking, just go, So,
I don't know if it's better.
But a spaceship, the initial launch to break the gravity, that's where all the work is, you know, right? And then it gets a lot easier. The pitcher, when he winds up to throw that ball, all the work's in the wind up. The slingshot in the pullback.
The bow. How about the bow?
The bowstring in the pullback. The wind up in the baseball player. What else? We can go on forever with this, Mara. You got one? Bowling. Right? It's all in that initial burst. And in that initial burst, that's the toughest part. It's the toughest part for an alcoholic, I'm sure, right? The withdrawal symptoms of a heroin addict or a person addicted to sex or gambling or whatever a person's addicted to or food or bad food choices or Netflix, whatever it is, these things that control us that we know are not good for us, that we think, oh, they got us. They don't got us. We got them. We got them. I'm holding on to them. Right. But that initial to let go of that, it's painful. It's like pulling the tooth. I know the tooth's got to come out. I'm wiggling it. It hurts. Just yank the tooth. And so what we do is we set up their spiritual sadhana. It's called sadhana bhakti. We hear it from guru. We don't quite get it sometimes. We have reasonable faith and we say, okay, I'm going to do it. And we do it on a regular basis. And it starts to sever. It's that initial push and that initial pain. And then there's an initial freedom. Can you name, Kaustubha, what's one of the symptoms of bhakti, one of the first five, Sanskrit and English? That hot seat. Ready?
That's brutal. You can't do that.
It's hot seat revenge.
How about I do them?
Relieves all material distress. What's the English for that, or the Sanskrit for that?
Oh, relieves all material distress. Kleshagni.
Kleshagni, right? It removes the kleshas, the burning kleshas.
Burns them up.
Right? Because there's a burning of the material world that we're in, especially when we're into intense sense gratification. And so when we get to bhakti, we give up those things that are the real growth. Yeah, there's some subtle stuff I got to work on, I know. But the gross stuff, when we cut that, it is like, oh my God, I'm free. And the fire just goes down on material existence. So if you are feeling the fire, do the things that will help you to get out of that fire. Associate with like-minded people on a spiritual trajectory. That's what everybody here is doing on Zoom. That's what all the others out there are doing. They're just hanging out here. And then the good about Zoom is there's some accountability. If Jeffrey Ackler is not here, I'm like, where the hell is Jeffrey? Where's Jeffrey? I can see the faces, right? Sarah Koreski. Where's Sarah Koreski today? I'm keeping a list.
You did that with Jolly Lama today, but he was here.
I did that with Jolly Lama. He's like, well, I'm here. He's banging on the screen.
I'm here, damn it.
So there's accountability with Zoom. We show up.
Okay.
But, we show up with the Sangha, and then we get into something steady and serious for our regimen, our workout routine. And that's 1 round a day of japa. And if sometimes people are adverse to japa. Of course you're adverse to it. You're adverse to working out. You're adverse to jogging. You're adverse to eating healthy. We're adverse to everything good for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sadhana bhakti is. We are adverse to it, but we're doing it because we hear from people that we trust, right?
And then you're not averse to it.
And then after a sudden you're like, oh, I love it. I love jogging. Right? Look at Mara. She's addicted to this stuff. Yeah. She doesn't want a day off.
She wanted tomorrow off. I got a hint that she wanted tomorrow off. I got a little.
Well, there is no tomorrow off because tomorrow I'm traveling to Daytona.
She thought she was off. Mara thought I'm free.
I'm doing a teacher training this weekend, and Mara's like, I guess we got the day off. Wrong. We got a special guest, Raghunath, coming in. He's a special guest fill-in for Raghunath, and his name's Paramananda Prabhu.
That's right.
We're excited to have Paramananda Prabhu tomorrow.
All right, so co-host.
Senior partner in crime for Shelter and Youth of Today, guitar player.
I spoke to Paramananda yesterday about it. And we discussed it. It's going to be a lot of fun, because what we can do? We can talk about you, Raghunath. We're going to be talking about you.
Paramananda's a fun guy, I will say.
He's got a lot of stories to tell, stories from the road.
Paramananda is a great storyteller.
Right.
And I just brought him back a beautiful Sheila from the Gandaki River.
Oh, yeah. Is that the mango-shaped one?
Yeah, we call him Chota Mango Dave. He's the little mango. It looks just like a mango. It's unbelievable. Maybe he'll give Darshan on the show tomorrow. All right, let's dive into this sweet nectar.
All right.
Hot.
Hit it.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta parishvabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is completely eradicated. Loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. Om jnana tamarandasya jnananjana shalakaya chaksurunmadatam nyena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness.
I waited to see.
I'm taking it back.
Take it back. Go, run with it.
I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual masters have opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus-like feet.
Okay. All right. We're ready to
Is that a hard one for you to get through?
Why?
Lotus-like feet. at the beginning, the first year of my bhakti, I was like, why lotus-like feet? Lotus.
I think
I'd always picture like a foot guy with feet, flower feet.
Flower feet. It wasn't hard for me. I didn't really I kind of just let it go.
You let the poetic analogy. I was fighting everything. My path to bhakti is much different than yours, Radhanath Swami's. I fought everything. Why? Why this? Why that? Why the tuft of hair? Why the robe? Why do we have to do this?
Sometimes you just gotta let those things go.
I know. You do.
Have you learned that over the years?
Well, you develop a taste for it. I didn't have a taste for the Bhagavad Gita. I joined an ashram, moved into an ashram before I even read the Bhagavad Gita.
We heard about that, yeah.
I told you that, right? Because it was the association of devotees. I was like, I love how these people live. I want to be like that.
Who was it that impressed you first?
Satyaraj Prabhu. You know that. Satyaraj Prabhu, a.k.a. Steve Rosen, spoon-fed me bhakti and tolerated my out-of-control mind.
How did you connect with him? Like, he just walked up to you, or you walked up to him?
You want to know? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful story.
He was selling some books.
No, it's a beautiful story, my friend.
Right.
I was really interested in spirituality, metaphysical stuff, mystical stuff, Eastern spirituality, Hinduism. And there was a bookstore. Do you remember Weiser's bookstore in New York?
I remember East West. I don't remember anything. Where was
Weiser's? Was like on 23rd Street, and it was like a big treasure trove of mystical books. And you could just go in there. It was big. It was like 3 times the size of East West. And you just go in there and read and smell the incense and hold crystals. Yeah, it was good. Occasionally, like a witch would come in. It was like a whole thing there in the 80s. It was like so many, because it was weird to get into that stuff back then. It was weird. You got to fly your freak flag there to get in that store.
Yeah.
And so I was part of that scene, and I was really at that point. I was really into vegetarianism.
You were part of that scene. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
like that whole. Friends and things
I got news for you. You were too. If you were in the Lower East Side in the 80s, you were a freak. You were not mainstream.
That I understand, but I'm talking about this 23rd Street witch gathering.
Well, that was. I mean, it was also part of it. It was also witches were cool. We accepted them. Wicca, white, black, whatever. So anyway, I was reading in that bookstore, and I was in the vegetarian section because there was not that many books on vegetarianism back then.
Right.
And I found a book that he wrote called Food for the Spirit.
Oh.
And it was about vegetarianism and world religion.
Right.
And I was like, oh, and yeah, and that book really affected me because I felt like, oh wow, I believe in vegetarianism very strongly. I'm an avid preacher about it in my band. And this guy has tied together how controlling the tongue is a great book if you haven't got it. Controlling the tongue is an important pillar in all spiritual paths. It's not just in Hinduism. All spiritual paths has this restriction. And then he showed where in Christianity, they sort of like changed things up a little bit. And now actually, and Mormonism and stuff like that, how like Mormonisms are supposed to be vegetarians. And they just sort of like changed it.
Mormons.
It's written in the Doctrine of Covenants, and how the Bible, and he did translations of the Bible and how it could mean here instead. And it was just so impressive. You know me, I've got a big mouth and I'm a preacher. And I was like, this is a great book. I told everybody about this book. I preached about how great this book was. And when the Youth of Today record came out, I put that book under recommended reading because we had a song about vegetarianism. And so then one day I was at the Brooklyn Temple. I still didn't even know anything about Krishna whatsoever, but I was like a boiling point in my spiritual life. I was completely frustrated on the spiritual path I was in. And I was like boiling up. And I was at the temple. I didn't know anybody in the temple.
You're so boiling that you even went to the Hare Krishna temple. It was like, I gotta try it.
I had I had something connection with the Krishnas, but everybody I knew was a little crazy.
Yeah.
but and I didn't even know that the author Satyaraj, his name was Stephen Rosen on the book. I didn't even know he was a Hare Krishna. So when I was looking at their book table, which is very confusing, the Hare Krishna book table is just like, it's like colors and fantastic photos and Lord Chaitanya pictures, who looks like a woman because he's got long, beautiful hair, but he's topless. He's like, what is, you're just like shocked by all these photos and paintings. And then I'm looking at a book about Lord Chaitanya by Stephen Rosen. And I was like, oh my God, that's the guy who wrote
I
that
know
book.
guy.
And he was standing right behind me. And he said, in a joking like way, he goes, hey, you want me to autograph that for you? And I go, oh my God, you're Stephen Rosen. You're my favorite author. Can I talk to you for a moment? I'm going through a crisis in my life.
There
And I
was the
tell you,
connection, right?
this is the
There.
magic point in a person's spiritual life. Like you can be listening to Zoom or you can be listening as an other, and you'd be going, this is interesting. I'm interested in spiritual life. Yeah, this is pretty good. Mara's like, yeah, give me some info. Yeah, I like information. It's when you get to this point of deep material exhaustion, which I was at that point.
Yeah.
And Krishna appears as the devotee.
You know what happens? Because the super soul, right, in Satyaraj and Stephen Rosen was like just dragging him right over to you and said, look at that confused guy over there looking at your book right now.
I tell you, if you knew what I was
Reach out.
going through like that, and I was really on a spiritual trek, and I've been going through fake people, and finally I just said, I've got some questions for you. And Satyaraj Prabhu, he loves dialogue because he loves questions and answers. He always says, do you have any questions? Well, even today when I see him, and I just said, can I ask you some questions? And he goes, sure. And I dumped a barrel of questions. It was like,
why the lotus
it
feet? Why lotus? Why lotus feet?
No,
I don't get it.
Deep,
why the tuft?
Deep stuff. And I tell you, it was like a rain cloud extinguishing a forest fire. And I was like, even Satyaraj had to say, okay, we're going to stop now. I said, but I have a million more for you. And he goes, I go, when are you here next? And he says, I come every morning. But Satyaraj didn't look like a Hare Krishna. Doesn't look like
he
Hare.
kind of wore a
blazer and stuff like that. So I wasn't intimidated
like an
by
intellectual, kind of like an intellectual.
Yeah,
Like
he's an intellectual.
Writer.
He's a writer. And so I said, when are you here next? He goes, I'm here every morning at 7 a.m. to, there's a puja in the morning to worship and greet the deities. And then he goes, then I have breakfast. He goes, why don't you join me? I went every day to the temple after that.
Where did you live then?
I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, 1987.
Okay. So you would take the G train down there and see him every
morning. The G train, risking my life back then to get to Schermerhorn Street, which is risking my life also.
Well, he lived just
he lived a block away on State Street. Yeah.
All right.
But that was the beginning. It was when you meet that person that speaks to you.
Yeah.
Always cherish that. I'll always cherish Satyaraj because God tagged him to speak to me. And to this day, every time I do my pujas and my worship, this is like.
Well, they say that, it's kind of like a common, I don't know if there's a Shastric saying, but there are examples like, but I think it's like a common, I don't know, Hindu thing to say or whatever. But like they say, when the disciple is ready, the guru appears.
Right? It's a yoga thing, is it?
Yeah,
like the
yoga
yogis made that up.
but you do see that. Like, in other words, when Parikar was ready, Sukadeva Goswami appeared. Like we see that happening all the time. Right?
Yeah.
So you just got to be ready, and you were at a boiling point.
I was at
write a song now. Boiling point.
SSD song.
But yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. Complete material chaos, and then with a sincere desire, Krishna will send somebody and give you a sacred relationship. And I tell you, he spoon fed me bhakti because I couldn't take big doses, and it was the most beautiful. It was real romance, Prabhu.
Well, I'm picturing him spoon feeding you at that breakfast every morning.
Spoon feeding me.
Literally.
We had great. No, and then sometimes I would just come in tears, crying my eyes out, and he would just go, "Let's go for a walk." He would take such good care of me. It was so beautiful. I'm happy we're having this conversation because it's making me appreciate how much love I have for this person.
Well, you have to appreciate those people that have done so much for us, right?
Yeah.
And what do you say? What's your pillar? About like you appreciate people and you tell them, you let them know it or something?
See the good and let them know it. See the good and let them know it. And every time I talk to Satyaraj, I tell him, I don't let him start speaking. I just say, I want to share how much you mean to me and how much you've done for me. And everything I have is because of you. I'm going to cry right now.
Should we read a little Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
Okay. So we said the prayers already, so we can just get
You already
started.
said the prayers. We can just get started
Okay.
here. Where are we at?
So we're in the third canto. We're in chapter 9. And Lord Brahma, after having glorified the divine form of Lord Vishnu for 5 verses, is now in the midst of expressing his compassion and his very clear understanding of the predicament of the soul entrapped by the material energy. That's what he's getting into right now. All right. You're leaning forward. Are you gonna say something? Or?
Yeah, I thought you were.
No,
I'm trying to be sensitive. You still go.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Text 9.
No, we're on text 7.
Text 7. Oh my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate, and they are also bereft of good sense. We didn't know. What if we didn't know?
They're telling you. He's telling you.
Okay. They engage in inauspicious
It's
activities.
not even saying it's kind of their fault. It's just saying they're bereft of it. But
Okay. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. This is the incredible thing about the deep samskaras. When you go to India and Nepal like this, it's in their DNA to get the importance of hearing and chanting. Like if you just start having kirtan anywhere, people are like, oh, all the Aravind, you know the story. You're from India, right? If you see a bunch of white people, from Caucasian people coming from America, and they just start chanting, every Indian will be like, oh, it does something to them that they get excited about it. They get really excited. Let's read this again. Such a beautiful. Oh my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. We don't know. They engage in inauspicious, without knowing, what do we do? Inauspicious things.
Okay.
Enjoying sense gratification just for a very little while.
For very little, right?
For very little.
We get so confused.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just like there's not much of it. You work all day. You get up. You don't want to get up, and then you got to get ready to go to work, and then you go to work, and you work all day, and you try to squeeze some maybe on the weekend or maybe when you get home. It's not that much.
I've been, especially because I have my whole new altar set up now, and I keep it right near in my bedroom now. And so I keep it real close to me. And then so I wake up and I immediately get right into my meditation. And I here's my new morning program. I get a headphone and I have lectures going. I put this boom right in my ear. Mm-hmm. And I just hit play, and I offer my obeisances to my deities. I do my pranayam. I take my cold shower, and then I get right into puja. And it's like you develop an eagerness. We got as soon as that alarm goes off, we are fighting against the snooze demon. Do not hit that snooze. You wake right up. You sit right. If you're a person that is like, you gotta get like the space, like the rocket ship. You got to get out of that bed. If you're one of those persons that the bed is like, no, don't leave, stay in, it's fun. It's not fun. Cut it. Wake up immediately. Get out. If you're one of those beds that's drawn to the bed, step out of the bed. Put your hands in the air. Throw some cold water on your face. Offer obeisances. Don't stay down too long. You'll fall asleep. But, those morning rituals just to cut it. Mary, are you a good waker-upper? Can you just wake up like that?
Yeah, I can just get up.
They say that's one of the 6 good qualities of a dog. It's immediately alert when it wakes up.
Is that in the Nectar of Devotion?
No, I don't think so. But I think it's
It
may be Chanyaka Pundit.
Wakes up right away.
That
they dogs do that.
They're alert right away, right? It's not like they laser. No, maybe Gus is different.
Gus is a little slower.
He's the slow dog.
Slower.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. That was a great verse.
But you know what I think is interesting here, and I think it's going to come out in the next few verses too, is here's Lord Brahma, again, most intelligent person in the universe, right? And he's talking about like the unfortunate circumstance that people are in, like the predicament. And he's equating it with the lack of attraction for hearing about Krishna. Like that's just in his book, like, oh man, how unfortunate, right? They're bereft of this taste for hearing. It says chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities. That's what Bhagavatam is, right? It's like when you think of yoga and you think of some path towards liberation, I think a lot of people don't think that it's this like discussion and conversation about Krishna and his leelas and his pastimes. But he's saying, no, no, no. Like the unfortunate people, even the yogis out there, he's going to get to that actually in text number 10. Even the yogis that like, they don't have any taste for this. Oh God, it's so, and he's feeling compassion. It's so unfortunate. It's the cause of their suffering. You know, the medicine is right there and they don't get it. But then when you actually try it, even though it doesn't sound like yoga, like our stereotypical idea about yoga, but it's these conversations and this contemplation and this sharing and this back and forth that is it's really the potent, powerful, transformative yoga practice.
Well, it's like this, the pleasure. There is pleasure in tamaguna. There is pleasure there, or else we wouldn't do it. There's pleasure in intoxication. There's pleasure in sloth. There's pleasure in Rajaguna. There's pleasure in planning. We're going to plan a vacation. It's going to be great. There's pleasure in hope. We're going to do this. We're going to have whatever it is. There's pleasure in that. But yoga system, just right down there, our yoga asanas, they start to change us, and the pleasure becomes richer, deeper, sweeter pleasure. It's not like there's no pleasure in intoxicants, but it's more refined pleasure. And those who, when they get to goodness, they start to think, oh my God, I couldn't believe I used to do that. I couldn't believe that was like normal for me to wake up and smoke a cigarette.
Mm-hmm. What does that have to wake up? Okay. I was speaking. Did that relate to what I was saying, or it was just your inspiration?
I thought it did. Did I miss something?
I don't know. I was talking about hearing Krishna's pastimes, and you got to smoking cigarettes. But I appreciate the point.
That.
No. I don't know if there was a.
I'm
link,
making great points, but
I was sitting here trying to find the link.
There's a link. You gotta stretch for it.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I just had a flashback to, we're talking about the snooze devil. There was a small period in time when me and Kaustubha lived in the ashram together when we were very young. And there was a group of brahmacharis that if you slept past 3:30, they would come around with a kirtan, like a little gong and big cartels and a drum, and they'd have kirtan room to room. Do you remember that? And they'd like, wake
I remember
up.
things like that.
It was like a wake up call. It was like the transcendental alarm clock.
You know what that
shaming you out of bed.
That's what it was. It was like kind of like a superiority thing, or like I'm awake and you're not. What's your problem? You're
more
still
evolved than you.
I'm more evolved. Yeah. Oh, hey, you know what? Did you see the video I posted? Yes, I sent it to you. Didn't
you sent it to me while I was driving. I tried to watch it while I was driving. That's always dangerous.
But that was me back in those days.
You know what? I'm gonna post it on. I'm gonna see it now.
Post it. But that was, you know what it was? It was me filmed for the film Carlito's Way.
What's Carlito's Way? Was that
Carlito's Way? Was like a bit. It was Al Pacino.
Mobbish.
Yeah, kind of mobbish. He was Puerto Rican, but yeah, it was. But I was.
What do you do? Were you like?
I was doing kirtan, going down the street.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it got cut out. Yeah,
that's okay.
But I found it after all these years.
I was in Bright Lights. I was in Bright Lights, Big City.
Oh, you know who just wrote to me? Kenny Hess wrote to me and said, I was filmed for Bright Lights, Big City. You must have been in it with him.
Oh, that's so cool. I was in that too.
Yeah.
I got cut out.
You got cut out. We all got cut out.
Paramananda was in something too. I can't remember. It was something big.
Did he get cut out too?
Yeah. We must not have film karma. We got music karma, but not film karma. Yeah. Okay, we are drifting. Kaustubha, I'm allowed to drift. You are
if I drift, you're hopeless. Mayor's looking at me like, yeah, Kaustubha, where are you this morning?
You're the holder of the kite. I'm the kite. Okay. Let me drift. You reel me in.
Okay. Text number 8.
8. Oh, great actor, my lord. All these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion of bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. Good word, huh? Indefatigable anger. I take pity on them. I won't say it. And I'm very much aggrieved for them.
Thank you for avoiding the Mr. T.
Mr. T. Yeah. So this is a very sober look of the conditioned embodied living being. overcome by our senses, embodied, being attacked, basically being attacked by the threefold miseries.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's another
Miseries of your-
threefold thing here too, because when it was talking about secretion and bile and all that, that was a reference, because the Sanskrit here is tri dhatu bi.
Oh, it's an Ayurvedic reference.
It's an Ayurvedic reference there, yeah.
The doshas are always
The dhatus.
the dhatus and the doshas are always getting screwed up. I get in a plane, my doshas get screwed up. You know,
The vayu. Air.
Do you know that even moving in a car screws up your doshas?
Well, what I've heard is that the human body's not supposed to move faster, at a faster pace.
Well, it's like the Jains. It's like the Jains. I think we should
hold
get
on
back to Jain living.
What do the
Serious.
Jains not do?
They don't go as fast as they can walk.
Okay, I heard as fast
That's why
as
they're
a
walking
bullock,
everywhere.
a bullock cart moves.
Maybe,
but I never heard that about Jains.
That's why Jains are always walking. You're driving go over down Eco Village, you see a whole
around.
bunch of Hindu ladies walking on the highway.
Really?
They're Jains.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? No car accidents for Jains.
I suppose not.
If you're not going that fast, you can't get that hurt.
But you're saying that it's good
Unless
for
you get hit by a car, I guess.
It's good for the air in the body. It's not good for the air in the body.
It's good for the
to
airs of
move
the
so
body.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to live.
You know, I've learned how to counter that when I travel. You know, you have to counter it. You have to
beat the system.
You got to do the best you can, because if you fly in an airplane, you're going at such a speed that it affects the air in the body. So you got to ground that with the kapha element, the earthy element. So like an oil bath before you travel or after you arrive, something like that. It's a good way to go.
You're such a self-care guy.
I'm not at all.
An oil bath.
I'm not at all, but my wife is.
But
my wife gets on my case. You know, my wife says like, "Hey, no, this is good for you. You should do this because you need to balance this out right." She's good at. She knows it, the deal. But you don't have to worry about
fasting.
that.
You know what's a good one? Fasting.
Fasting
During flight and
it
never
affects your
looking
digestion.
never looking outside the window.
But eating when you land is important because then that's also like earthy and kind of grounds you. I'm going off on a tangent again. I don't know what's going on today. Mara's looking at
you got to hold the string today, Mara. You got to hold the string.
Okay.
You're okay. Reel it
in
in
any case,
Mara.
that's what that was a reference to. That those tri dhatus, the mucus, bile, and air. There has to be a balance of them in the body. And Ayurveda is all about that balance, right?
Whenever I give a class on the doshas, I call it a dosa by mistake.
Yeah.
Which are these beautiful South Indian foods. Does anybody else do that?
A lot of people do.
Like, you're screwing up your dosas. All right, let's continue.
Okay,
Text 9. Oh, my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. This is the big statement. This is the tattoo. This is the hashtag, Mara. The material miseries are without factual existence for the soul.
Real? Okay. We had to discuss how that's true because it sure feels like it's real.
I just got an email from a guy, from an other out there, who went through a lot of hell. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was calling for advice. He went through a lot of trauma. And he goes, I don't want your advice. I don't want legal, ramifications. I just want you to read my letter. This is how I'm dealing with it. And he wrote this I love you letter. It was a letter embodying forgiveness to someone who's really wronged him. Okay. And it was such a beautiful thing. I was freaking stunned. And the way he said it was just like this. My Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence to the soul. And he just was praying for this guy. He was praying for this guy that really hurt him. And to see that type of deep forgiveness, I mean, of course, sometimes we can't do that or we're entrapped in the mind and stuff like that. But it was very, very powerful to read this.
Sounds fascinating.
It is fascinating. I'll get into it more sometime if he wants to.
Okay.
Thanks for everybody writing us. You can always write us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com or tell us your story, especially if you got some good stories out there. Tell us your story at Apple Podcasts. Write a review on Apple Podcasts and tell your story. The whole world will read it. And we get inspired by your stories. Go to Apple Podcasts right now during the show or after the show and write your story and give us 5 stars. That helps.
And send in questions for Saturday's question and answer.
and sending questions for questions and answers day. Text. Let me finish text.
We
9.
haven't finished this text.
Yeah, let me
Why don't you
finish.
start
text 9.
again?
Oh my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. It's hard to believe. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment,
Mm-hmm.
he cannot get out of the entanglement of the material miseries.
Mm-hmm.
That is it right there. Once you're seeing the body for like, what can I get out of this world? Being influenced by your external energy. So being influenced by the Maya. Kaustubha,
What?
I see this, man. Like, a Super Soul Farm, we have sometimes a paid retreat. People pay for a retreat and come here. We have Kirtan Academy and or Kirtan Chant Camp, and people pay for retreat, and they pay for retreat and they learn something, or they do a teacher training. But we also have these ones where we do Seva weekends or a Seva day.
Yeah.
And in that Seva day, people are coming with a different intention. It's not
so
a huge...
Seva
means service. You're coming to do some work. And, we feed them, and we have kirtan in the morning and kirtan in the evening. But really, the people...
Okay.
We feed them.
You sound like a slave owner over here.
Minimally.
We feed them.
Give them some food. But, Mara knows because she's part of the whole thing. But people come, and they do just like selfless service. There's no expectation for sense gratification. And it's not like the chant camp weekend is like it's not like it's National Lampoon's Animal House going on. They're studying kirtan, they're inquiring, there's a yoga class, but it's just like the expectation on a Seva day or Seva weekend is, what can I give? What do you need? It's not like, I don't want to work inside. I prefer to work outside today. It's just like, let me know what you need. It's the mood of pure devotional service. And I tell you, I have never seen such blissful people than after those weekends, because they're expecting nothing in return and giving their heart, and they become fully joyous. And I'm having reflections right now. Mara, do you remember the one where it was a beautiful spring day? It should have been a beautiful spring day, but it was like hailing. And everybody's like, I was like, oh man, we got to think of indoor activities. And everyone's like, no, we'll work outside today. It's cool. And they're like digging trenches, shoveling sheep dung, and they were blissful. They're coming in covered in mud, blissful. It's magic stuff. And this is it right here.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? It's such a simple thing. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but it's such a simple thing, this counterintuitive idea that happiness doesn't come through being served, it comes through serving. Because that is the nature of the self, that actually real happiness, real deep, lasting contentment comes through service. So therefore we have to look, he's saying Brahma's, he's the first guy, he's the architect behind everything. He gets how everything's put together, right? He's speaking with clarity here. And so he's saying, as long as the conditioned soul sees the body, right? This is talking about how we see our body. This is fundamental. This is, if we want to break the chains that bind us, so much of it has to do with how we see our body. So he's saying, as long as the conditioned soul, as long as they see the body is meant for sense enjoyment, that they can't get out of the entanglement of material miseries. So we have to look at ourselves and say, how do I see my own body? Do I see it as meant for sense enjoyment? Or do I see it as a vehicle for service, right? In pursuance of self-realization. Sure. That's what Brahma's trying to help us understand, right? You're saying, well, what if we didn't know? But we do know now, right? Like the message comes, like, understand your body's, you're born into the body, you got these senses, and you become confused, and you think, well, it seems like the whole purpose of this thing is to feed this body with as much sense enjoyment as I can. Won't my happiness come from that? But it doesn't, right? It's actually what we need to understand. This body is a vehicle for service in pursuance of self-realization. That's, if you can just get that point, that it flips the switch, it changes everything. Now, it may take some time, but the gratification that one will feel from that is different from sense gratification, that it might take a little time, but gradually, in a more substantial and lasting way, you're going to begin to feel the effect of that. My life's become more meaningful. I don't experience suffering in the same way. When things come that used to cause me suffering, it doesn't bother me the way that it used to, I let it go because I got this deeper thing going on underneath on that spiritual level.
Let it go. Okay.
Oh, that's what you're doing.
No. I had something to say.
Yeah,
I had
let's
a
hear it.
quote by Jim Carrey, and this is your point is driving towards. I'm not living any more longer for the sense gratification, and part of that sense gratification is people validating me, people accepting me, thinking I'm attractive, think I'm cool, think I'm smart. I'm not.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm looking for. I am not trying to impress the world.
Mhm.
I'm trying to impress, and I'm not even trying to impress. I'm trying to impress Krishna. And when our focus is on that, it changes the entire goggles we are wearing of the world. And I have this great quote by Jim Carrey that I want to read. It says, "The funny thing is, when you start feeling happy alone." Now, we will translate that into our happiness comes from within. Our happiness comes from the way we're living on a regular basis, the way we're treating people on a regular basis, the way I treat myself on a regular basis, my connection on a regular basis. The funny thing is, when you start feeling happy alone, that's when everyone decides to be with you. That's the most attractive thing. Now, this is a great thing because there is a big hole in the heart, a God-shaped hole. We talk about this a lot, that we're trying to put another person in. And we think that person will fit in that God-shaped hole, and the person won't. That person will never be your God. Don't make them your God. They'll never live up to it.
Right? What to speak of
What's
things?
to speak of a thing? It's not a thing-shaped hole either.
Okay.
I thought it was a 69 Mustang-shaped hole. It's not a 69 Mustang-shaped hole. There's so many things we think will fit in that key. The key hole has to fit the right key, and it's a Krishna key. It's a Krishna key, Mara. Write that down.
I mean, even if you don't want to go, it's a Krishna. Oh, that's a good one. Or even if you want to say it like this, right? It's a service key, right? Even if you want to, right? If Krishna's too much of a thing to handle right now, right? But like that, my life
Service
is meant to
better. Service is more palatable.
Yeah,
my life is to give. We're born to give.
There you go.
Boom. Hashtag that one. Born to give.
Boom.
Statistician here.
So yeah, go ahead.
My point is, we spend the world, our life. We go to the gym. We get a gym membership. I work out. I put on cologne. I shave my beard so it looks so cool. Women are doing so many things with their bodies and their face and stuff like that because we feel like I need to be validated by this world.
Right. You know what a trend that.
Go ahead.
Well, I say
you run with that.
I was talking about this also while you're on the back of a yak, on a yak cart moving through Nepal. When you were away, when we were having the show without you.
Oh, okay.
We spoke a bit about like you're talking about validation right now.
Yeah.
And when we identify with the body, our validation is very much connected with our body, how we appear to others, how our body appears to others, right? If I see my body as me, or if I see my body as meant for sense gratification, I'm going to get confused and I'm going to suffer.
Yeah.
And we're talking about particularly for women, especially nowadays, because if you were to say this 100 years ago, it would have been true. And if you would have said this 50 years ago, it would have been more true. And if you would have said this 20 years ago, it would have been more true. But today, with not only film and, not only television and not only computers, but then, social media on top of that, and then it's like, Instagram, TikTok, this, that, it's like the pressure on women to feel that their worth is connected to the appearance of their body is just at some bizarre extreme level. Right.
It's at a bizarre extreme level. And you got to be careful if you're using that, if you're using that as bait or to get your if you're using that as your currency.
Yeah.
If you're using that as bait, you're going to expect the type of fish that are going to go after that bait.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's okay. So you're like talking about like finding a meaningful people in your life.
Well, if that's what you're using as currency, that's what you're going to attract.
Yeah, but I'm talking and that's a very important point. But I'm saying even about how you feel about yourself, right? In other words, you're
taking it to another level. Okay.
This is the fact. Is just like it is bizarre that someone looks at your body and says, okay, 1 through 10, what are they? A 6, a 7, an 8, that one's a 10, and that someone will size you up, merely based on the shape of your body. And that pressure that women are experiencing today, I think is at a very bizarre level. And there's a response to that. Like, in other words, I get that there's a response. This is where, within the yoga world, this is what I'm talking about right now. You ready?
Yeah.
Is that the response to that is commonly like, well, you know what? I don't care what you think, and I don't care about how you size me up. And that's a step forward. But the response might be, my body's sacred, my body's beautiful, and I don't care what you say. And I can appreciate that. Like, I think that's a step forward, a powerful step forward. Mm. But one has to be careful with that too, because if it's just like, then one begins to go, oh, let me identify more with my body. I am beautiful. I am, I'm a goddess. I am, like that kind of thing, We're
all goddesses, Kaustubha. We're all goddesses because we're all feminine deep down.
In one sense, but
right?
That's another subject to. But my point is that bravo, like, it's for you saying, I don't give a damn how you size me up. That's not good. I'm not going to let your shallow, estimation of me based on the shape of my body ruin my life. Yeah. But with the real detachment is not to begin to identify with the body in another way, but it's to say, this body, whether it's being judged this way or that way, its purpose is to serve, right? Its purpose is to give, and that's what I'm going to use it for. And you know what? I'm in it for a short amount of time. I've been through so many, and now I'm in this one. And whether you feel this way or that way about it, you go ahead and feel that way about it. It's not slowing me down for a second, right? It's not your estimation of me is not. It not only am I rejecting it, not only am I not interested in it, but the true depth of that realization is that I don't even have to begin to think of myself, begin to like dive deeper into that. But I get it that like to counteract that, one starts to think about their bodies being very special and this and that. But the real, why is it special? It's special because I have an opportunity to engage in the service of God and to the very source of all existence. That's why it's special.
Otherwise, it's the flip side. It's a flip side of the same coin, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you're just as affected by it.
My body's not beautiful. My body's. I mean, embrace my beauty.
It's the most beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
It's the most beautiful. You're not the body. You're not the body. It's like my body. It's like working out in the gym. I'm gross. I'm out of shape. What am I going to do? I got no abs. And then all of a sudden, it's sort of like, look, now I am in shape, and now I do have abs.
Right.
It's the same thing. You're walking at, like, if you're a yoga teacher, the home run is my students walking out of class going, I'm spirit, Right. But looking in the mirror and curling and saying my body is gross or my body is beautiful, that's the same thing. You walk out of that gym, I am the body. You're not the body. You have so much more value than the frame.
Hashtag that one. All right. Mara, do we have any takeaways for today?
We do.
Got a lot, Mara. Forgive us if we were wandering today. You can put up on the board if we should have kept more. Why don't you write on the chat board, Zoomers, if we went off track today? When Kaustubha goes off track, then it's like it's like driving in India. Arvind, you know what I'm talking about. It's like.
All right, takeaways. Material miseries are without factual existence for the soul.
Oh, we didn't even get into that, but it's so true. Maybe tomorrow.
You know what? We could have teased this show out.
Yeah. This body is a vehicle.
Like, yeah, you could have if you weren't going off on tangents the whole time.
This body is.
We're blaming Mara for not reeling us in.
Sorry. This body is a vehicle for service, not self-gratification.
Sense gratification, though, I think, right?
Yeah. It's a Krishna key.
Oh, it's a Krishna key.
Krishna shape.
Like that one.
Krishna key.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense if you just say it like that, but in context, it made sense. Now it's like, what? But back then I was like, yeah, Krishna key. But yeah, it's a Krishna key that fits in the heart. It's a Krishna key that fits in the keyhole of the heart.
The hardest part of shooting the bow is pulling back the bowstring.
good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Good one. Out of all the analogies I gave, you used his analogy. Whatever. I gave like 11. Kaustubha was like, the bowstring. The bowstring. I know where your loyalty lies, Mara.
All right. How about you're more valuable than the frame? And born to give. One. Yeah, and born to give.
Come on, most of these are you, Raghu, so don't complain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. That was fun. It was fun today when Kaustubha goes off track. And thanks, Jolly Llama, for giving us our little gifts, our fill me up with love gifts.
We also have some stuff going on today for Patreon members. Seth Scheffler-Collins is teaching an asana class at 6:30 a.m. And Rich Mancuso is doing his Kundalini class tonight at 6 p.m.
We love them
golfer.
Yeah, and there's a Bhakti Recovery Group meeting at noon today.
Okay, Patreon members, you know what to do. Hop on that, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Go there, support us. This is community supported. We also want to announce that our trainings are happening in January in India. India should be open by then. We're having a great
Hopefully.
Gonna open by then. Gonna work. So we have our Kirtan Academy. We have Ayurveda Academy. We have the Wisdom Training featuring Kaustubha. And then we have our 300-hour Bhakti Cultural Immersion. These are all mind-blowing 1 month, almost a month, in India at the Eco Village with Radhanath Swami. It's a game changer, right? Mara's been there a few times.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. This was a paid announcement. No. I didn't pay her to say that. It's actually incredible, but a bunch of you guys have been there, Lori Pag, I'm looking at. Yeah, it's beautiful. So check that out. Also, me and Bobby Marchand, one of our regular Zoomers, we're doing our teacher training upstate New York for 200 hours. That's in August. I want to pump that up. That's all available on my website, raghunath.yoga. You can check all those offerings out. And then me and Kaustubha and Mara are going to take it to the streets. We got a retreat going on at the Bhakti Center. I think it's going to be the second week of June. We're working on it right now. If you want a good chance to go to New York City.
Oh, and that'll be the Rath Yatra weekend, right?
No, we got a special plan. I'm going to blow everybody's mind when I announce it. We're going to put it together today, Kaustubha. We're having a secret meeting, you and me.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, we're having a secret meeting. You didn't know that? Okay. And that's the latest. So what do you say we sing and dance and get that dance cam going?